But African trading links reached far beyond Europe. To the east of Cairo lay the great sea routes to India and China. The sailing rig in use today has changed very little since the great trading days of the past. East African sailors were tacking their ships against the wind up to an angle of 35 degrees long before Europeans had learned the necessary technique. The Africans who manned and still man these vessels are the Swahili, a coastal people who speak their own African language. Really, these mariners were at home on the highways of the sea, just as in West Africa the camel caravans traversed the Saharan ocean of sand. So did the ships of the Swahili traverse their ocean of water. Once again, this time in the east, linking the African interior with the markets of the world. This is Lamu, a charming little town on the northern coast of Kenya. It was the destination of many of the ships coming down from the Red Sea, the Persian Gulf, and some from as far away as India and even China. They timed their voyages to take advantage of the seasonal monsoon winds which blow back and forth between the Swahili coast and northern India. The ships brought with them not only goods for sale, but a wide range of ideas and beliefs. The most influential of these came from the lands of Islam to the north. And it was not long before the majority of Swahili had accepted Islam. In spite of this northern influence, much of their culture has remained distinctly and uniquely Swahili, and it has kept its own identity. This traditional stick dance is a kind of ballet, but it's also an occasion for individual challenge, and that's very much an element in the culture and character of the Swahili. Although the cities of the Swahili in their heyday had a common interest in trade, each of them preferred to stay on its own. They liked to compete against each other, as these men in this stick dance, but had no interest in territorial conquest. Lamu was just one of many Swahili towns, built in coral stone all the way along the coast from Somalia down to Mozambique. The domestic architecture of Lamu has been no mere copy of the styles of Arabia or India. From the outside of a traditional Swahili house, there's really nothing to see except a blank wall and a porch with benches for receiving guests. And even when the handsome front doors are opened, there's still only a blank wall behind them. But once inside, it's a very different story. 600 or 700 years ago, when houses like this one first began to be designed and built by Swahili architects for leading men and merchants, there were few houses anywhere else in the world so well designed for comfortable city life. This particular house dates from the early 18th century, but much older examples of Swahili domestic architecture not only demonstrated a unique construction and embellishment, but were built to a high standard of what we now call modern conveniences. While the inhabitants of London in Elizabethan times were emptying chamber pots out of the window, Swahili residents of Lamu who could afford such a house as this enjoyed the luxury of good internal sanitation. These old Swahili houses spell out for us the basic aims that guided the architects in their design: to make the best possible use of local materials, finely plastered coral stone, necessarily short rafters of mangrove tree poles, and then to ensure a high level of domestic privacy, and not least to show off and guarantee the creditworthiness of the owner, so essential in a community whose livelihood always depended on the profits and the risks of long-distance trade. Lamu is nowadays the best preserved of the old Swahili coastal towns, but it was by no means the most important. Through excavation or analysis of graveyards such as this one, archaeologists have identified more than 50 Swahili towns, all constructed in the same coral stone, a stone which can be readily worked beneath the surface of the ocean, but then takes on a permanent toughness and durability soon after being exposed to the air and sun. And here is one of the best surviving examples of the pillar graves unique to this Swahili coast. And there are, as you see, fine pieces of porcelain from China embedded in this African tomb. Such plates and bowls from ancient China are pointers to the involvement of Africa in the far-reaching networks of Eastern trade long before the coming of the Europeans.